I'm excited to be here today. We're just about the year mark of what has been a real journey of discovery for us. And so our goal today is to kind of share some of the findings we've had over the last almost a full year now of working with our customers in what we call the ROI validated program. I think every person in this room could come up on this stage and give a testimonial of how times have changed in the channel for them professionally and personally. I think all of us can identify with the fact that budgets are facing more scrutiny than ever. Resourcing is more challenging to get than ever. We have seen channel teams be asked to do more with less over and over. You've seen the recent market announcements of organizations that are downsizing, trying to find more efficiencies, trying to squeeze every ounce of leverage out of their coverage model for their channel program. I'm sure the C-suite at all of your companies is asking you to give them a clearer line of sight to what the ROI is of the channel programs that you run. And I think that there's an evolving expectation that the channel, as an industry, as a discipline, will be able to leverage advanced technologies and improve best practices to generate KPIs and metrics that your C-suite can use to justify investment in capitalizing on the transformational opportunity in the channel. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. This all kind of started about a year ago. I was sitting in the office of one of our customers. I was actually in Tel Aviv. Sitting in the office, I'm talking with the CFO of our customer. And we were waiting for the channel chief to join the meeting. And as we're talking, I asked the CFO, I said, hey, when your team comes to you and they talk to you about an opportunity that they think will drive revenue in the channel, what do you look for? What metrics are you looking for? What KPIs do you want to look for? What's your rule of thumb that says I should entertain this investment opportunity and invest that money into my channel team, or maybe I don't if I don't see the ROI? And the CFO told me three things that I've heard probably 20 or 30 times since across our customer base. He said, Brad, number one, he said, I have absolutely no doubt about the opportunity that exists in the channel, and if our team could access just a portion of that opportunity, it would be transformational for our business. He said, number two, I'm completely convinced that I cannot approach that opportunity with the direct sales motion. It takes too long, it's too expensive, but most importantly, I need a translator. I need someone who can take my product, my services, my offering, and with their domain knowledge, their subject matter expertise, walk my product and service into that market industry, into that use case, and make me relevant. So I know the opportunity is there. I know I can't access it through a direct sales motion. I'm going to have to use partnerships, ecosystems, I've got to use my community and my ecosystem to get this done. And then he said, but I will, he goes, I'll be honest. I'm pretty certain there are opportunities where I could have invested and I didn't, where we would have made money and I didn't do it because I didn't have a line of sight to the ROI. I didn't know what metric or KPI I should be using to decide whether I should invest or not. So this is the first test of my presentation. We're going to do a little audience participation right now, so you're going to have to cooperate and help out with this. But I want to use an example that I think will be illustrative on the next slide. So we're going to pretend for a minute that all of you and I are running a sales organization, a direct sales organization. We have a quota of $1 million for the quarter, and we are now on day one of the quarter. Feel free to shout out the answer if you know it. How much pipeline do I need in my pipeline on day one of the quarter in order to close $1 million at the end of the quarter? Oh, gold star, raise your hands. Gold stars for all of you who said 3, right? And honestly, shame on you for the cowards who knew the number and didn't say it, because all of you thought the same number. You all knew it was 3. But that is so telling. Isn't it interesting that literally I'm pretty certain 95% of this room knew the answer was 3. That is an industry accepted metric that CFOs and CEOs use to make investment decisions about when to invest. And it's not just how much pipeline I need. It's a little bit of an oxymoron. Jay McBain tells us all the time, 70 to 80% of the world's goods are transacted through the channel. With that kind of volume and throughput, it's a little bit crazy that we struggle to find investment in our own organizations to fund our channel operations and initiatives. So what has to happen to free up that capital investment so you can access that transformational opportunity in front of you? You all know it's there. And the answer is really in what that CFO told me that day in Tel Aviv at his office. The answer is, if I don't have a clear line of sight to the KPIs and metrics that are relevant for our business to make an investment decision, I'm going to be hesitant to invest, which means that your programs and initiatives won't get funded. And so this kind of puts an extra burden on the channel as a whole, on all of us. If you look at the conversation on the left, right? Imagine a conversation between a CFO and the CRO. That's the left-hand box. They sit down to have a conversation about how the business is going, and CROs can pretty much repeat at a moment's notice the standard KPIs of a sales organization. What's my average productivity from my AEs? How much pipeline do I need to cover my quota? What's my average ASP and how is that changing over time? What's my average sales cycle in days? What's my cost per lead, cost per opportunity, and cost per close one deal? When the CRO and the CFO share that same data, have a common understanding of those metrics and those KPIs, then the CRO says, you know what, I think if we use Gong, I can get a little more productivity out of my team. I can improve it by 5%. The CFO could, in about 3 minutes, turn that 5% improvement on AE productivity into a number. And the CFO says, I now know how much I will invest because I know what the metric is and I trust the metric is real. Well, now flip that coin over to the conversation with the CFO and the chief partner officer, the channel chief. How comfortable is everybody in this room with having a conversation about the average partner quota in your organization? That'd probably be segmented by average partner quota by segment. Right? How much pipeline do you need in your channel in order to deliver on your quarterly, monthly, or annual number? What's your average sales cycle in days for a channel opportunity? What's the ASP and how has that changed in the channel? And what is the cost per lead, cost per opportunity, and cost per close one deal in the channel? If you are like most of Impartner's customers, they're incredible people. I think there is a level of difficulty that gets ratcheted up for the channel, not to disrespect any of our brothers and sisters in the direct sales motion. But it is one thing to execute on an opportunity when all the resources work for you. It is another thing entirely to execute on an opportunity when none of the resources work for you. It requires a level of discipline and investment that is significant. So it's challenging. It's challenging in today's world, and I think the market expectation of us is definitely changing. The market is expecting us, your C-suite is expecting you, to be conversant on these metrics and to bring productive, positive ROI programs and initiatives that are going to move the needle, but to do it sharing with them the relevant KPIs and metrics they need to make an investment decision. I think that's why the CFO said, I'm sure I have had opportunity to invest, but I didn't do it because I didn't have a clean line of sight to the ROI. Okay? So I think this is an opportunity and a challenge for each one of us in this room. Okay, so with that, Impartner has been on honestly a maniacal mission the last 12 months. I'm sure my Impartner colleagues will chuckle a little bit at this, but you probably haven't heard me say 4 sentences in Impartner meetings in the last year where the word ROI validated program did not come out of my mouth, right? We are on a mission to help every one of our customers move from where they are today, which is awesome, to a full ROI validated program which will allow them to capitalize on the transformational opportunity that exists in front of them. So what is the ROI validated program? It's 4 pillars, 12 steps. It's so important that you know your company, your ecosystem, your products, your market, you will do different things inside of these 4 pillars and 12 steps than maybe the neighbor sitting next to you in the chair. But I've been at Impartner now almost 9 years. I have never seen a high-performing channel program that doesn't do all four. Every high-performing channel program I've ever seen does something to optimize all four of these pillars in an intelligent way, right? That brings extra depth and richness to the program and the experience they offer to their partners. So let's walk through this real quick. So pillar number one, it's all about goals, goal setting, having an attainment policy, and assigning out that quota in that goal to your relevant partner segments and your individual partner accounts. I know it sounds kind of like boring stuff to say you got to set goals, but I can't tell you how important this step is. We're going to come to this in a minute. When I show you the actual, we've been doing a lot of work with customers to calculate the ROI. When you see it, you'll be surprised at the impact of this pillar. But there's a really significant impact from pillar number one. And that is, you have to have a quota that is set that your company believes in. Please don't raise your hands on this question, but does your company treat your channel quota the same way it treats your direct sales quota? Do they count on it as coming in the front door as being equally relevant? Or is the channel quota somehow a smushy objective that somehow fits underneath the overall revenue objective the sales team carries? Okay. Number two, you have to have an attainment policy. You can't really measure and establish a determined performance and calculate ROI and improve ROI if you don't know how to measure if you cross the finish line or not. So you actually need to make sure you have an attainment policy. It is surprisingly rare, especially in the SMB and mid-market space, that customers actually have a documented attainment policy of how the channel team will make their number for the quarter or for the year. Number three, you have to be able to allocate that quota out to your partner segments and your partner accounts. Okay, that's pillar number one. Pillar number two is all about ramping the right kinds of partners to full productivity. So pillar number two is first you have to identify your ideal partner profile by segment. Then you've got to look back at your quotas assigned in pillar one and say, do I have enough of the ideal partner profile in my program to carry the quota I assigned in pillar number one? Then once you understand what your need is, you've got to look at who's in your program today. Are you oversubscribed in some geographies, markets, or verticals and undersubscribed in others? And you need to properly size your ecosystem with the kinds of partners that you need that will carry the quota you assigned in pillar number one. Once you've done that and you know what the gaps are, you know where you need to add partners and maybe where you have too many, then you have to go execute. You got to go recruit, you have to onboard them, and you have to ramp them to full productivity as fast as possible. Right? It's a race. Once you get them on board, it's an absolute race to productivity for those partners. Okay, pillar number three. That is all about the go-to-market motion with your partners. Pillar number three is all about how you're going to go create opportunity, execute on that opportunity, and close business with your partners. So there's a step number 6 you see up there. There is a line, a list a mile long of all the technologies, tools, and strategies you can use to drive demand with your partners. Some of it you'll do for your partners, some of it you'll do with your partners, and some of them the partners will do without you. But you have to have a go-to-market motion that you trust that will drive the opportunity size you need. If all of you take only one thing as a recommendation today, home from Catalyst, from this presentation, please read point number 7. If you want to know the ROI of your program, it is almost impossible to demonstrate the ROI of your program if you don't treat lead distribution and deal registration, if you don't provide the attribution back to the source campaign on that motion. That allows you to attach your revenue source to the cost you spent or the money you spent to generate the opportunities. This is not a pipe dream. This is not a theoretical thing you should do. I don't care what PRM platform you're on today. This is most likely, if you're with Impartner, you can configure this in the next 5 days. If you're on some other platform, I believe they probably can configure it as well. But you should make sure that you configure to show attribution on lead distribution and deal registration back to the source campaign. You will be amazed at how much your ROI will shoot up when you do that. Your ability to scenario test what you do in your channel marketing will change dramatically. Surprisingly though, less than 30% of all companies we work with actually do it. Okay, let's keep going and pull it up 3. So now you've created, now you have the demand gen working, you've created the opportunity, you've sourced that opportunity back to the source campaign it came from, and now it's all about execution and shortening the sales cycle for your partner team. How do you accelerate that, and how do you provide more value to de-risk that pipeline and close more of it? Ideally, you'd like to provide them with some way to quote so they can get you out of the way, because sometimes you're in the way of their business. Now, for quoting, sometimes that's as simple as a segmented price list in the asset library, or maybe you need a full-blown CPQ system that allows you to quote, revise those quotes, reissue quotes, and sometimes even place orders through your CPQ and ordering system. That's pillar number 3. Pillar number 4 is all about measuring what you did in pillars 1, 2, and 3. At this point, we got to talk about your data model a little bit. You'll notice at the bottom of the slide, there's a little tombstone with that little, kind of the rinse and repeat sort of motion that we have going on the slide. As you think about the data you're going to use to measure your performance, to demonstrate what you did with those KPIs that you committed to your leadership team, you have to think about your data model at the same time. Right? So the beginning of this is you have to bring your close won, close loss data back into your data set for reporting and performance management. That will allow you to do performance dashboards, scorecards, and demonstrate the return on all the work you've committed to in the previous 3 pillars. It also is really the place where you ought to be asking yourself, in 2025, AI and predictive analytics are going to be available on a much more scalable fashion in my channel tech stack than they ever have before. If you are like most of our customers, your channel data is kind of scattered throughout the enterprise in a very creative and artistic way, right? Yeah, it's beautiful. I've seen the LinkedIn map that shows where all my LinkedIn connections are, and it has like these little waves going everywhere. That's our data model, right? If we want to benefit from AI and predictive analytics in 2025 and beyond, we should already be talking to our technical teams today on how to make sure our channel data is in one place that can be leveraged by those applications. If you haven't started that conversation, I would strongly suggest you do it right now. You will be so glad next year as you have more applications and more functionality at your disposal in your current tech stack that you'll be able to leverage. If you're on Impartner right now, you will have tools available to you in 2025 that will do generative AI at the beginning and data level AI by the end of the year. And your ability to use that to make up for your lack of resources will be extraordinary, but you're going to have the data in the right place at the right time to do it. So it's worth thinking about that right now. Okay, so these are the 4 pillars of the 12 steps. What you do in your company will be a little bit different in each one of these to configure it the way you need to, but literally every high-performing channel program I've ever seen finds some way to optimize these 4 pillars. Okay, so we've been meeting with our customers. We've been walking through the ROI validated program. There's a lot of enthusiasm about it. And everyone said, hey, look, we should do some kind of a workshop to make sure. How do we compare what I'm doing today to this framework and think about what is low-hanging fruit so I can improve the ROI I get from whatever I'm generating today? So that led to the ROI validated workshop. We've now been doing workshops for about 9 months. With our customers, we're doing them as fast as we can resource them. Impartner does a number of these by ourselves, but the ones I love the most, frankly, are where we bring in many of our really high value-added consulting partners. They come in with us, and they bring 30 years of channel experience into that conversation. And as we talk about how to optimize each of the 4 pillars and what the low-hanging fruit is to improve the ROI you're getting today, their input is just priceless. It's awesome. So we hold these workshops and come up with kind of a gap analysis. Not only does this help us work and align our strategy as a vendor to you, but it creates an extraordinary tool for you to message to your executive team. You can take the outputs of this workshop and walk back to your C-suite and say, this is my roadmap. This is what I'm doing to establish what the ROI is today and to know how I'm improving it. These are the KPIs and measures I'm going to track consistently to make sure that we're driving more and more value through our channel program. Okay, so we've been working on these pretty consistently, and these workshops they're really fun, right? It's super fun to meet with customers and talk about what they're doing well today, and what the low-hanging fruit is to go do better. So these workshops really try to establish three things. They answer three questions. Question number one is, what is your channel ROI today? How many of you know the ROI on your channel spend today? The fact of the matter is most of our C-suite believes that's true. They don't think that we have created the ROI in our existing program today. We need to do that. Number two, what strategies can I deploy? What framework can I use to help me think about how to improve that ROI immediately? What can I start doing tomorrow? Okay. Number three, how do I find a way to communicate these efforts to improve my ROI to my leadership team so I can unlock the investment I need so I can capitalize on the opportunity that we all know is there in the channel? Okay, so we've been doing these workshops now almost 1 year, and it's been a goldmine of data. It's just so fascinating to watch what these companies do. Every time I meet with customers and we go through a workshop, I'm just blown away by their professionalism, how creative they are, the things they're doing to leverage the tools to take it places we never dreamed of. It's amazing to watch what they do. But as we go through these workshops, one by one, we started to track some of the data so that we could start to take inferences away as to what generates more or less ROI and where we might want to spend our time if you wanted to start this process for your organization today. So I want to share a couple things with you about our findings so far. These are findings after 9 months. So I kind of think of it this way. Impartner is a pretty young, scrappy company, and we're growing and we're doing well, but we're kind of building the plane while we fly it, right? So we're at 23,000 feet, we're screaming along, the door isn't really closed, but other than that, the plane's working great, and we're cruising along, and we're building this out. I fully expect that a year from now, this data set will be more complete and provide even more insight. But we have enough that it's already fascinating. Okay, so let me share with you a couple of the findings from this. So after having done a whole bunch of these workshops, we've developed two cohorts, two groups of companies. Cohort number one are the companies that are running a channel program today, but they have not optimized any of the 4 pillars yet. Okay, so when I say optimize, let me tell you what that means. As you can see, in every one of the 4 pillars, there are multiple elements you can execute. Okay? For the purposes of an analysis, we had to come up with a framework. So we said, okay, if a company has done 1 or 0 of the elements in that pillar, we're calling that not optimized. If the company has done 2 or more, then they fall into cohort number 2. So cohort number 1 is the non-optimized group, where they've launched their program but have not yet executed more than 1 of the elements of each pillar. The customer worked with us, and we got their channel, their marketing and sales channel cost data to use as the denominator. And then we used the deal reg, the closed won opportunity from deal reg as the numerator. And said, okay, what's the ROI in your channel program? So we calculated the ROI for the non-optimized cohort. Number 2, cohort number 2 is kind of just everybody else, right? If cohort number 1 is those that did not optimize the pillars, cohort number 2 are companies that have optimized at least 1 of the pillars, but maybe more or maybe all. Okay? We did the same thing. We took their total program cost, the cost of their people, their marketing tech, all of their, all the sponsorships they do, coming to partnership leaders, coming to Catalyst, all the cost of their program, and you divide that into the revenue that comes in through their deal reg. Okay? And we calculated the ROI for this cohort of companies, and we calculated it by pillar. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So I met with a really wonderful customer just a few minutes before coming into here. As I was talking to Michelle, she said, we bought the solution, we're laying the roadmap for what we want to do. We know we're a year or 2 before we scale, but we want to have the right experience for our partners, and we want to have paved the path for success. I'm pretty certain that program is in category number 1, an SMB account that has made an investment today. They've planted their corn, they bought the tractor, they bought the land, they ran the irrigation, they have the fertilizer, but they won't see the full return until the season ends and they harvest the crop. Right? So there are actually good reasons why an SMB mid-market company might have a negative ROI in their channel program today. You don't want to be there 3 years from now, But you could have a good rational reason why you might be on the investment side of that equation for right now, okay? However, if you're an enterprise company, there's not much excuse, right? These companies as a whole made 10% return, which means for every dollar they invest, they're getting $1.10 back. And I'm glad it's positive, but I think we all want to do better than that. So again, these are for the companies that have a channel program, but have not really gone through the motion yet of optimizing any of the 4 pillars. Okay, so we're going to talk through, I've kind of already hinted at the fact that the ROI goes up when you optimize the pillars, but we're going to do another audience participation question, right? And so feel free to just shout out the answer. Which of the 4 pillars do you think has the single largest impact on ROI? So if you could do just one of them, if you didn't have the money or the resources to execute on any of the pillars, but you were going to invest in one, what would you do? I saw a silent answer. It's like a silent auction. I saw the 2. He votes for 2. 3. 3's pretty good. Go-to-market's pretty compelling, right? I got 3 over here. What else we got? Votes for 2 and 3. There's no love for 1 or 4? I got to vote for 1. Thank you. Thank you. We got a 1 vote. Okay, you've had about 30 seconds to think about it. We're going to do a show of hands. How many vote for pillar 1? But you got to vote, by the way. Anybody who doesn't vote has to leave. I'm sorry. Okay, so pillar 1. All right, a few brave souls. All right, pillar number 2. All right, pretty good. Pillar 3, a little more than pillar 2, way more than pillar 4. All right, pretty good. Okay, all right, well, let's go look at it. The actual answer is pillar number 1. Now, it may seem a little bit odd, and it is a little bit odd, so let me walk you through it. But kudos to the 2 people who voted for pillar number 1. All right. First of all, let me explain the slide a little bit. The numbers on the far left, that's the non-optimized cohort. The data in the middle is the ROI for this particular pillar. And the one on the far right is if you optimize all 4 pillars. But let me explain what this means. It kind of sounds odd. Why would an SMB company make $2.35 for every $1 invested just by going through an internal exercise of setting goals? Like that, when we first saw this data, I was like, I don't think we read the data right? Because it kind of seems odd. That's an internal motion. We haven't done anything yet to add value to the partners. We haven't changed the experience. We haven't trained them. We haven't enabled them. We haven't given them marketing tools. We haven't distributed any leads. We haven't done anything yet. So this came across as kind of odd to me until I realized, I started looking at the companies. And maybe we'll find out in another year's data that maybe some other pillar will exceed it. But let me tell you what we found, right? What we found is that these data points in this pillar, establishing goals, having an actual quota, having a documented attainment policy so you actually know when you achieve your goal, and allocating quota out, they actually are a proxy for something else far more significant, which is organizational commitment. Companies that have the highest return in the channel are the companies that demonstrate organizational commitment to it. I think perhaps this will be it. Well, as you go back from Catalyst and we explore this a little bit, we'll see if this turns out to be true. But if you can get your CFO and CEO to sit down and agree that the channel quota needs to be separate and distinct from the sales quota, and it needs to be a separate, justifiable revenue stream, and you need an attainment policy that stands on its own, so you can actually count up all the beans to make sure you hit the quota. And you actually know where that money is going to come from because you've assigned out that quota to your segments. It represents an organizational commitment from your CEO on down that will transform your company. It probably already is transforming your company. It means that your leadership team is channel friendly, and they're inclined to already appreciate what the channel brings. So I recognize it's a little bit of a non sequitur to say, why does internal setting goals have the highest ROI? I actually don't think it has to do with the axis of setting the goals. It has to do with the organizational commitment. Okay, so let me share just a few thoughts with you about pillar number 1 of these workshops. So first of all the companies that the workshops with, only about 20 to 25% optimize pillar number 1. So it's a pretty small number. The vast majority don't get more than one of those items configured. We also noticed that if you don't set goals properly in pillar number 1, there was a corollary in pillar number 2 that your ecosystem was probably poorly sized. Because you don't know what you're building for, right? You're trying to kind of bring in all you can, be opportunistic, which is, it's better to do that than not bring them in. But if you don't do your planning right, you don't do your quota setting right, then you probably don't know what you need out of your channel ecosystem, and therefore you get bloated ecosystems with partners you don't need, or you have partners in the wrong places or with the wrong skill sets. So we found that there's kind of a correlation between those two. If I were to maybe make a recommendation, that is, if there's one thing you could do, if you aren't one of the 20% that already has this level of structure around your channel goals, I would actually say this would be job one when you go home. Work with your departmental leader, get with your CFO, get with your CEO, and say the number one predictor of channel success is organizational commitment. One of the ways we represent that is how we set the goals and expect the money to come in, because the investment will follow the revenue stream every single time. And then we have some customers who do some really amazing things in pillar number 1. I'll just share one or two examples as we go through this. We have a customer that used Analytics Studio to build out their reporting that allows them, not a studio, they build out their opportunity sharing in a way that was going to help them with their goal setting and with their opportunity management. So they built out the opportunity sharing so they could put more than one partner on an opportunity, and then they have a scoring mechanism that allows them to allocate credit to the partners that are involved. Because of that, they're able to actually calculate the influence of each partner, whether it's a referral opportunity, an influence opportunity, or a resell. And they're able to demonstrate that ROI, whether that ROI is dollars or impact. If you're here in this room, there's a good chance that in your organization, there might be an active dialogue that says, sure, my channel drives a certain amount of money, but they also drive a certain amount of influence and impact on the business. They solved for that and how they used opportunity sharing. It was really creative. It's an awesome way to do it. All right, let's bounce over to pillar number 2. So pillar number 2 got a lot of votes, and justifiably so. Pillar 2 is all about sizing your ecosystem, having the right partners in it, recruiting them and enabling them as fast as possible so that they're productive and they can produce for you. So yeah, again, you see the non-optimized ROI. SMB accounts that optimize pillar number 2 get about an extra 50 cents back on the dollar. So they're getting back $1.50 for every buck they invest. Enterprise accounts about $2.80 back for every dollar they invest. So let's walk through what observations we saw in pillar number 2. So first of all, this was by far the most highly optimized pillar. In fact, when we talk to our customers, hey, how are you executing your channel program? When they say, I'm executing really well, they usually mean pillar 2. That's oftentimes what they view as the mission critical. I got to find the partners, I got to recruit them in, I got to give them a great experience, I have to get them trained and productive. And then the hope is that the economics kick in from there, right? Now that they're trained and productive and they know what our solution does, they know how valuable it is, they know how to go present it and sell it, the economics kick in and that carries them through the value cycle, okay? So by far, the highest level of optimization of any of the pillars. SMB, it's about 60% optimize the pillar, but I will tell you that there are actually a lot of elements in this pillar. SMBs and mid-markets usually just do 2 or 3 of those, which I think is why the ROI is a little lower. It's that 47%. My guess is if the SMBs had the time and the money and the resources to do as much as the enterprise companies can do, their ROI would probably be up to match the same enterprise ROI, over 200%. So anyway, by far the most optimized pillar. Enterprise companies do a lot more. They'll execute on 4 or 5 or 6 of these elements, and they get really creative in how they do it. I'll share just a couple of examples from pillar number 2. We have a customer, it's a software provider that provides services in the enterprise IT space. And they've taken the automation of the partner journey to a whole new level. So most of our customers will do a couple of journeys, maybe 1 or 2. And most of those journeys are about automating the onboarding and training process. To take a partner from, you just joined my program, to competence. Okay? And that's really good. If you haven't done that, you should do that. Super high value added, really, really valuable to do it. So I'd encourage you to do that if you aren't doing that today. But this customer takes that to a whole new game. They've developed out 3 or 4 journeys for different partner segments, and for those initial journeys to onboard. But then they developed 7 journeys that partners can self-opt into, self-subscribe to. So I'll just read you some of the categories. If you want to go through the advanced sales certification, a partner can opt into that automation on their own. If you want to do essentials for beginners, if you want to do role-based partner training, if you want to do automation training for developers on their platform, and if you want to know how to migrate your customer from this vendor's old version to the new version, they have an automation for that. You enroll in that automation, it carries them through it. Super popular, right? These partners come in to consume that because those automations give them what they need in the shortest amount of time, and it clarifies how to get access to the right documents, how to get access to the right information. There are short videos embedded in those journeys. They're fantastic. So it's a really creative way to add value in pillar number 2 by executing and optimizing that element. Right? I would also say we have one other customer that does this, that they do a really good job of this. They put into their Analytics Studio reporting the characteristics of their ideal partner profile. It's super helpful because of that ideal partner profile, they're now able to take, they say, I've defined my partner in this manner. Tell me all of the partners in my program that meet that profile regardless of revenue. And it's helped them immensely to look down to their long tail and say, who are the 5, 6, 7, 8 partners that are basically irrelevant to me today? They're very opportunistic, but with a small amount of investment, they become enormously productive for me because they match my ideal partner profile. So a really creative use case in this space in pillar number 2. Okay, so if I were thinking about what actions I might take based on pillar number 2, I'll just tell you, I don't know if these apply to you or not, but I'll just share them with you. Companies regularly overstate their ideal partner profile readiness. So we sat down for these workshops with our customers. We asked them, do you have an ideal partner profile? Yes. By the way, nobody ever said no. Yeah, I don't know what happened. No one has ever said no to that question. When I say, can you send me the document? They all go, oh, well, I don't have a document. You want a document? I said, well, okay, just tell me, what is your ideal partner profile? And all of a sudden, you lose the intimacy to that partner segment, right? Your segmentation of your program. At this point, there's no longer, I have an ideal partner profile for resellers, for distributors, for OEM partners, for MSPs. It's now just coming into one partner profile for everything. And what they tell you is basically who sells the most money today in their program. That's kind of what it devolves into a little bit. And that's a little bit pernicious, right? Because if you don't know exactly what you're looking for in your channel program, then one, you can't see it in your long tail to promote it and bring it, make it productive. Number 2, you probably have the wrong number of partners in your program, and they're not going to drive the quota numbers you set in pillar number 1. They just won't be able to do it because they don't match the profile that you needed. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, yeah, the partner journey. When I told you before that most customers do 1 or 2 journeys, that's true. It's also true that that's pretty much all most customers do. I think it's worthwhile. Companies that maximize the ROI out of pillar number 2, they maximize the automation opportunity. So the onboarding sequence is critical. You need to get that right, and you want it to happen fast and easy and make it a good experience. But there are other automations that need to be provided to map out your journey for what you want. And it really helps if you're disciplined in actually writing down what behaviors you want your partners to exhibit. If you could provide a list of, I want my partners in this segment to behave this way, you could write an automation for that journey. But if you haven't written down the actual behaviors, the journey is going to be too generic and it won't add value to your partners. Okay, so those are my thoughts on pillar number 2. Let's go to pillar number 3. So pillar number 3 got a lot of votes, and rightfully so, because it's about demand generation, right? That's where you start to see, you hopefully are going to see a lot of return, and you do get good return. An SMB account in this space that optimizes pillar number 3 is going to get back $1.80 for every dollar they invest. An enterprise account is going to get back about, what is that, $3.50? I can't quite see it. There are a couple things to think about in this that are worth considering. So let's jump into some of the recommendations. So one is, I actually thought this pillar would have a higher optimization rate, but it doesn't. If you had asked me before we did any workshops, what percentage of the customers would be optimizing pillar 3, I would have thought it'd be close to that 80% range for enterprise and maybe like 50% for SMB. Because SMBs need the volume, right? They need the revenue. They need the new logo adoption. So I would have thought, if you look at a marketing spend comparison, an SMB or mid-market company will spend a much higher percentage of revenue on marketing and channel marketing than an enterprise company will, right? In terms of a percentage of revenue, SMBs and mid-markets really double down on the marketing because they need it. So this one surprised me a little bit. Surprised me that adoption was as low as it is, right? So there are a couple of things come to mind for this. In the mid-market, this is another example where, how we set that threshold of you've got to optimize at least 2 pillars to be considered in the optimized group. The SMBs are right there. They're doing 2, right? And you can see what the elements are on the left-hand side. That's probably because it takes quite a bit of investment, and you need to have some resources to be consistent at doing this. You can launch MDF, but launching when you pick up one end of the MDF stick, you got to pick up the other end, right? Which is the programmatic governance and the ownership of it. When you decide you want to do lead generation campaigns, you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other end, which is the follow-up, the follow-through, making sure you get the results out of it. So for SMBs, that can be a little tricky. They could usually invest in the start of that, but they find governance and ownership is hard to maintain over time, especially if they have limited resources. But you see a much better adoption out of the enterprise space. A lot of locators, TCMA, MDF, a lot of Google Ads, ads for the channel, one of our solutions. So, but I'll repeat here what I repeated before, which is if you were to go home from Catalyst and just do one thing to optimize pillar number 3, it would be step 6 in the 12-step cycle, which is make sure that you have your leads and deals associated back to source campaign. Not only will it make you so agile, right? You'll be able to do tests. You'll run a campaign, you'll watch it flow through the system, and you'll say that was a good one or a bad one. And you can pivot. And there are some really creative things our customers are doing. Let me read you a couple of examples of ones that really jumped out at me in these workshops. So some pillar 3 examples. We have a global hardware provider that they have just massive global reach. They're huge. They're using our ads for the channel solution. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically our customer, the manufacturer, can place Google ads, LinkedIn ads, or other ads, and they could do that on behalf of their partners. So think of it kind of like as a very generous MDF sort of situation, where you're spending money to create leads that you're then giving to your partners. Those leads are auto-routed through PRM out to the partners, and this has been transformational for their business. They have a 27% conversion rate from lead to opportunity on their ads for the channel lead routing. Over the last 18 months, trying to optimize this channel, they have decreased their cost per channel lead by 75%. Just noodle on that one for a minute. How many of you could walk into your CFO's office and say, I think I have a way of reducing my cost per lead by 75%. Will you work with me on a plan to get that done? You would have a seat at the table in less than 15 minutes because you're provided a metric, it's measurable, you could repeat how you could measure it over time, you could track how you're doing against that. It's been amazing for them, the adoption of this solution. The other one, I'll tell you the other one that I really love. So we have a customer that uses our TCMA solution, which fits into the pillar 3. It's all about the go-to-market motion, right? But they use our TCMA solution to create kind of a syndicated web store for their partners. So the way it works is you use our showcase technology, and they go in and the partners take a Java snippet that they get in the portal, and they go embed it in their .com site. That displays the web store on their own website that's maintained by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer maintains the web store. All the partner has to do is embed it on their website. The partner then does absolutely nothing. Like really nothing. They do nothing other than make sure their website's up. Because the web store is available to all of the customers that come to that website, they hit the web store, they transact to the web store, all those transactions go directly to the manufacturer credits the partner and pays them for all those deals. It's awesome. I mean, the partner literally does nothing. And they see that as a huge value add. They get extra reach. They get extra benefits from the manufacturer as they grow their channel program with them. And it really requires almost zero effort on the part of the partner. Super creative use of a pillar 3 optimization. So we have the software provider that generates leads and then routes those leads out to their partners. But they don't stop doing lead scoring. They continue to lead score, and then they send systematic notifications out of the portal to the partner, letting them know that a new threshold on intent to buy has been achieved for that lead. So the partners know where to spend more of their time in trying to close the best and most likely deals. So super helpful. Pillar number 4. You're going to notice that pillar number 4 is super high, right? In fact, truth be told, it's slightly higher than pillar number 1, but it's not. But it isn't more important than number 1 because you can't do pillar 4 if you don't do pillar 1. If you removed pillar 1 from the equation, pillar 4 would be a deserted wasteland, right? So what really matters is pillar 1. But you'll notice that companies that actually execute on these elements. So let me remind you what these elements are. Number 1, you bring your close won, close loss data back into your channel data for analysis and scorecarding performance management. This is really important. Maybe just raise the number of fingers, if you don't mind. How many, so think about a deal that gets registered in your partner portal, partner infrastructure today. How many deal size data points do you have on that opportunity? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Or more or less? We got 2 over here. 2 or 3, about 4 right there. Now, actually, let me make sure I've asked the question the right way. I want to know the revenue number of it, not the associated detail around it, but how many data points do you have on the revenue of that opportunity? Is it still 4? Maybe, okay, okay. So let me tell you what I mean. Most of our customers, the only representation they have in the portal, and their reporting in the portal, in their PRM solution, is the registered deal value. That was registered long before it closed and at an estimated amount. Now, they may have quoted that opportunity 2 months later, but that quote data is not retained. And then they either won or they lost that deal 2 months later. And that data is not there either. If I were looking to make sure I had proper analytics on what my partners are doing to my revenue, I would want to have all 3 data points. Then you'll know which partners are taking a deal which is modest to start with and growing it, and those that are sandbaggers, right? Or those that overpromise. They register the deal at 50K because they want to get the resources you're going to provide. When a deal is over 50K, you get a deal registered, you give them extra help. They get technical support, they get added, they get extra credits or commission, whatever you offer, and then they routinely close the deal at 25. So take advantage of your services offered, and the deal drops down to the size it was at the beginning. Wouldn't it be awesome to have all 3 of those data points in every opportunity for your benchmarking, scorecarding, and be able to manage performance? Okay, so number 1, you got to bring your close won, close loss deal back into your PRM and your data set. 2, you actually have to track the KPIs you committed to in pillar number 1. And then you want to leverage the predictive analytics that are available in your reporting structure. And this is where I mentioned before, it's so important that you actually make sure you're preparing yourself to leverage AI and predictive analytics in the future. So a couple of thoughts about pillar 4. It's almost identical. The same number of companies that optimize pillar 4, optimize pillar number 1. Because if you have actual real goals you signed up for, you actually care about what the reporting says, right? I thought it was interesting that over 50% of all workshop attendees at the beginning of the workshop, they couldn't provide the KPIs or metrics that they thought their leadership team would need to justify an investment decision. So I thought that was an interesting data point. We asked them, what do you think the KPIs are? They go, I don't know what they use. We should probably be able to do a little better than that, right? I thought it was interesting that fewer than 10% already have their program content, their account, contact, lead, and opportunity data in a data governance model that will allow an AI engine to feed off of it. So there's probably a lot of room for opportunity there for us to leverage those solutions in the future if we fix that. And fewer than 5%, actually had a stated channel data management plan. Right? What that means is when you buy your next piece of channel technology, you already have a data management plan that you're going to apply to that solution. Otherwise, we go back to the very artistic and beautiful data map that has our data spewed all over the enterprise because it happens sporadically by individual applications. Okay, so if I could do nothing else when I went home from Catalyst today, I would say execute pillar number 1 and pillar number 4. That way you will know what your ROI is today, positive or negative, whatever it is, it is. Do pillar number 1 and pillar number 4, and then start thinking about how to use pillar number 2 and 3 to optimize the ROI in your program. Okay? All right, listen, I'm about out of time. I guess I want to leave you with, this has been an incredibly exciting year for us. It has been fascinating not only to see the incredible examples of creativity and excellence of our customers as they optimize the 4 pillars of the ROI validated program, or the framework, but it's so much fun. Once they actually have laid out this framework and they now say, okay, I know what I want to do. I have a roadmap for my strategy for the next 12 months and how I want to execute. And in Impartner, we're like giddy. We're like, it's so exciting to have the ability to align what we're doing to what matters most to you and to enable you. We hope that we can continue to do that. We hope that we can do a workshop with all of you who are here. We'd love to bring our partners in to help us with that. It's honestly, it's career invigorating to be involved in these discussions and see how incredible each one of our customers has been in some way in managing their program. And with that, I'll end with just a repeat of the key best practices by pillar. I think these best practices drive ROI. If we execute on them, we'll be better off a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and we'll be able to have that discussion that CFO talked to me about last year when he said, I know that I have held back the productivity of my channel team because I wasn't willing to invest because I didn't have a line of sight to the ROI. This is how we solve that problem. It's been a pleasure to be a part of it with all of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Thanks.